What's up, YouTube? I'm Trent Wel-Don. Welcome back to the channel Well-Done Tanks. So we need to talk. Yeah, it's been a day. It's probably kind of a bonus video for the week. I think I'm going to release this one early because I typically upload every Monday and Friday. I may go down just to one upload a week. I'm not quite sure yet. Definitely, this is not like the, oh, he's leaving. No, but we need to talk about what is not in the fish room anymore. So typically in these conversations, you get to be like, yeah, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. We need to talk about the elephant that left the room. So I've got a fairly wide lens on the camera right now, so I'm right next to the camera, but I wanted to show you the full room in one shot and not have to zoom in, zoom out kind of a thing. So you can tell though, we're missing something. We're missing something rather large from this room. So I've made some decisions, not some easy decisions. The 220 gallon is no longer in the fish room. It's actually very shortly no longer going to be in my possession. I've got a potential buyer lined up for that tank, and we are not moving forward with the 220 gallon tank. I know, right? Crazy. I've been planning. I mean, I've held on to that tank for over a year, and it's just, but now, so, all right. So when I moved the tank in, and I kind of talked about this in previous videos, when I moved the tank in, the room, I swear the room shrunk, and it just, I don't know. I knew it was going to take up space, right? It's a 6 foot tank. It's 2 feet wide, like 30 inches tall, and 6 feet long. Like, it's going to take up some space. And it's a big tank, right? It's a big footprint. Now people are going to be like, oh, there's bigger tanks out there. 100% there's bigger tanks out there. But for the space I have, it was huge. It was very big. So this is actually something I've really been contemplating. I've actually been thinking about this for almost 3 weeks now. Just kind of kept it very close to the chest because I did not know what I wanted to do. And then finally, the other night, a few nights ago, I started talking to the think tank group. So the think tank is myself, Guppy Guru, Peter, and Michael with Bay Area Aquatics. So me, Michael, and Peter, I sent them a message like, guys, I'm thinking of selling the 220. I'm thinking of going an entirely different direction. Just, bouncing ideas off each other. And then I sat the wife down. I was like, hey, babe, like, what do you think about this, right? Because that was a big purchase, and well, obviously we need to talk about the Maboo puffer, right? We need to talk about that, but we'll kind of address things as we come here. And man, I'm just full of like sad videos, but like this is gonna get better. Like we got so many things planned for this fish room now. All right, so as you can tell, I'm rambling. So kind of back to the beginning. Moved the 220 in, and it was massive in here. But I was okay with it because that's what I wanted, right? Like that's what I wanted. I wanted to keep my puffer, and I need a big tank for that. So then we fast forward to we start working on the breeding rack, which is here. Let's see if I can kind of rotate the camera here. I have no idea what's that going to show. How's that going to show? Show all right? So we're working on the breeding rack. We got the lighting in, the air system set up, the water system's actually set up. So like this tank is practically done. Like this this rack is pretty much done. Like I have tanks on there, and I can get the water moving. I do have one small leak I have to fix, but that's an entirely different thing. So we got the rack in, got working on that, and people kind of kept commenting, and I even asked myself of, why am I working on the rack so much, but I'm not touching the 220? And the excuse to myself was, oh, I have more fish that need to go into this rack. I need to get these tanks done so I can move fish down here, give my laundry room back to my wife, actually get my house back in order. But then I knew that I needed to get the 220 done, but I kept coming back to this. I kept coming back to this rack. And I finally asked myself, I'm like, am I purposely avoiding the 220? Like that can't be, right? I mean, I've bought in some intense pieces of wood from Houston Manzanita for that tank. Like I've been hanging on to that wood, and I've got plans for this tank. I've got plans for that tank. I got, plumbing parts for that tank. So I had that internal conversation, and then I really started thinking about it, like, am I even happy with the 220? Am I even happy with what I've done? So I finally realized, and I kind of admitted to myself, well, I guess I admitted to myself that I was avoiding working on the 220 gallon. I really was. Like, I could have had that done weeks ago. I mean, it's hard. I'm working a lot of hours, trying to build a fish room, trying to build a pond, trying to get my house going, basement done, yard done. So I'm working when I can, but it was still just, I mean, from cutting out random plumbing pieces that weren't properly installed on that tank to actually, like, I came down here one night and was like, I am going to plumb this tank. I'm going to get the sump in and I'm going to do this. And then 10 minutes into it's like, I'm going to come tinker on the breeding rack and, oh, hey, the lights are up now. And I never found joy in working on that tank. So today, Peter came, as things have kind of laxed around the world and we felt comfortable with it. He came to my house today and graciously and generously helped me move the 220 gallon out of the fish room. So that is no longer in here. It's kind of barren now. Like it's barren, but like we got so much room for activities now. It's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So me and Peter, we talked probably a solid hour even before we moved the tank out, just talking ideas and what I'm thinking and what I'm planning. And, you know, I thought about, okay, what if I do a 75 gallon, get a smaller puffer, you know, then I can still have that puffer in my life because I love puffer fish now. You know, then I could put the 60 cube next to that. But as I said that, it was just, it kind of fell flat. And Peter asked me, he's like, is that even what you want? He's like, what's your main goal from this fish room? And I told him, like, you know, Peter, every time I come to your guppy garage, every time I'm in there, I'm excited to be there. I'm at peace. And it's just the coolest thing to walk around his rack. Because you remember, he's got the same rack I do. That's like, he was the one that taught me about these racks. I'd come over and be like, oh, what's this guppy? Like, oh, what's this guppy? And I'd come over here like, what's this guppy? Like, oh, this is this fish. And I catch myself just going from tank to tank to tank to tank. And I loved it. Then I come in down to my fish room and it's, like, there's a 220 gallon right there. Huh, about that. So Peter kind of finally nudged me. He's like, I really think that you want more out of your fish room. You want more space for more fish, especially since you are so in love with Japanese rice fish, rice fish. And I was like, you know what, you're right. You're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. So I made the decision. So here's what we're thinking. We'll kind of do some good news and we'll kind of talk the rest. I'm thinking, so the 60 gallon cube is staying. That's absolutely staying. We still got to get this thing rocking and rolling. That's going to sit over in this corner. So when I'm live streaming over in this corner underneath this tank, I have the 60 cube right there. And then we even talked about potentially moving the live stream station, but I think we're going to leave it where it's at for now. That gives me full access to this tank. Put the 60 cube in that corner because then I can still live stream. I can see the discus. And then we're going to put another one of these 4-foot husky racks over in this corner, if you can kind of see what I'm working with over here. And that will allow me to set up more 10-gallon tanks. So I think I'm going to kind of rearrange some tanks from this rack to that rack and that rack to this rack. But it just, as we started talking and he started proposing that idea, my eyes just started lighting up. I was like, yes. Yes, that is what I want. Like, that is going to be what I want for this fish room. I want to breed fish. I want to breed fish, and I want to offer those fish to the aquarium hobby, and my name on those fish. But it's the enjoyment. Like, I'm a little envious that Peter gets to ship fish out, and like, but I'm also just, as I've stepped foot in his fish room, and like I see Michael's fish room. His fish closet. It's just so perfectly done with his space. And as I look at that, I'm like, man, like, I'm not utilizing my space the way I really desire to. So that's where we're at. Now, Move forward again, Aquarium Co-op sends me out a massive air pump, right? They send me out their new linear air piston pump, 45 liters of air. That's plenty of air to run another rack. It really is. So then my brain really started turning like, man, now I really get to use this pump to its full potential. I mean, granted, I got to buy some more supplies now. Yes, like now that I have a vision of what I'm going to do, I really think that I can start cranking some stuff out. So I'm hoping this coming weekend to take a full day, really crank some stuff out, really work on this. And I think I can do that. I really think I can get some things moving and rolling. And now I got that passion again. Like when I first started building this, it was get the walls up, do the floors, paint, get the rack in, and like the passion was there, the fire was there. And then the 220 came in, I was just, oh, it's not the same. So we are moving and grooving. That's the idea, that's the plan. Now we got to talk about that puffer fish. This is where the hardest decision of my fish hobby, my fish career has come down to. And I've had that fish for almost 2 years, I think a little longer than about 2 years. And I drove to Washington. I drove to the Aquarium Co-op store and I bought that fish. The funny thing is though, when I drove up there, I had every intention of buying a Shodenai puffer, not a Mabu puffer. When I got up there, the day before I got there, they sold their last Shodenai puffer, but they had the Mabu puffer. On the same day that I went into that store and I saw the Mabu puffer, the original 220 gallon tank came up for sale for $200. I mean, all the equipment that I got off that tank and resold, I paid for the tank itself. So I've been through some things with this puffer fish. That original 220 gallon tank exploded on me, and I figured out why. After almost a year later, I finally had an epiphany and I put together why that exploded. And I've got some heart and soul in that puffer fish, but it's time to let him go. It's time to move on to what I really want to do. And I do not regret buying that puffer fish. So I'm sure people are gonna make comments of like, oh, you just couldn't house it correctly. Like you realized how much work that fish was gonna be, and like what is really entailed in keeping that fish. And no, I knew everything. Like I knew what I was getting into when I bought that fish. I bought that fish for the long haul. I did not buy that fish as a publicity stunt or look what I can do, I bought that fish because I wanted that fish. I wanted that fish in my aquarium hobby. I'm over keeping big tanks. I really am. I'm done with it. I no longer want big tanks. I think the biggest tank I'll ever own anymore is a 75 gallon. And the reason is it's manageable. It's manageable for me. It's manageable to move by myself. It's manageable to really maintain. I think you can still do some incredible stuff, but I find more joy, like Peter's Guppy Garage. I find so much joy in there, and that's what I want to do. I want to fill this room with rice fish, and a couple other little fish that really intrigue me. But I really want to be booming with rice fish more than I can handle, because that's how just passionate I am about them. So currently working on rehoming the Mabu puffer, and I'm not just gonna let it go to anybody. It's gonna go to a good home. So that's where we're at. We're setting up, geez, what are we at now? 14 minutes? Freak. I honestly only meant to talk for like 5-7 minutes, and here we are 14 minutes later. So it's where we're at, guys. I hope everybody can understand. But at the end of the day, it's still my fish room, and I still have to enjoy what I'm doing, because if I don't enjoy what I'm doing, then I don't bring you good content. And if I don't bring you good content, then I'm no longer gonna do this. But I am having so much fun doing this. I'm having so much fun with the interactions, the live streams, and everything else. So that tank is doing great. Check out that video. We're gonna get things rolling here. And hopefully in the next, I really mean this now, in the next couple weeks, hopefully we'll have an operational fish room, because it is time. So thank you everybody for your continued support. And on to the next chapter of Well-Don Tanks.